A very good morning to you. Welcome to the big story on Quest today on Quest Television. My name is Alex Obunaya. Thank you to Miriam and Comrade Ifeodomo for the paper review. And let's now go straight to the big story. Today on the big story, we are looking at labor, organized labor, and their strikes. Yes, 2 days of nationwide demonstration called off after the first day. And this is not the first time this is happening. Sometime last year, Labour called for a nationwide strike, and then on the eve of the strike, they called it off. And of course, we're looking at this issue today. Strikes, has organized labor achieved its aims? That's what we're looking at on the big story today. They've been calling on strikes, they've been threatening governments and declaring strikes every now and then, but still the issues remain. Government is yet to fulfill its promises. And well, we have someone in the studio to help us make sense out of it. His name is Barrister Emmanuel Reri. Good morning to you, Barrister.
Good morning, my brother. Thank you very much.
Welcome to the program.
You're welcome.
Okay, were you surprised that Labour called off its strike, or rather its demonstration, just after day one of the protests?
I'm not actually surprised, because it has become a slogan for Labour that when government policies are not comfortable to the citizens, they are the voice of the masses under the umbrella body of the National Labour Congress to embark on protests or strikes, as the case may be, to be able to express their grievances against government policies. Now, the question I want us to appreciate is what is actually leading to these protests, strikes, and all that. I think that is what Nigerians need to first and foremost appreciate. That at what point will Labour or any organized union in Nigeria embark on policies or against policies of government which are detrimental to Nigerians. Now, if we will take a look at our constitution, because we have a document regulating us as Nigerians, and the 1999 constitution, as amended, because there are a series of amendments ongoing. In fact, as we're talking, there's a committee to amend the constitution, the present one, which will become the 6th alteration to the constitution. Now, the constitution under chapter 2 of the 1999 constitution, which is captured the fundamental objectives and directive principles of state policy. I will take at least 4 sections or 5 so that we appreciate what is going on in the country, and why Labour, even if they are taking those steps, they have not really achieved the steps. What are the factors militating against those who come to that? But let us first of all most understand why these issues are creeping up. Section 13 of that chapter 2 of the Constitution says that it shall be the duty and responsibility of all organs of government and of all authorities and persons exercising legislative, executive, or judicial powers to conform to, observe, and apply the provisions of this chapter of the Constitution. That is the fundamental objective and directive principle of state policy, which we call the fundamental obligations of government. Because, like we all know, the government, this is what establishes the social contracts between the governed and those in government. So, and when that social contract is breached, of course, one of the aftermath effect is embarking on strike and protests. Now, if you go to section 14, which is a major factor to be considered here, section 14, sub 1 says 1. So the Federal Republic of Nigeria shall be a state based on principles of democracy and social justice. Sub 2 now went further to say that it is hereby accordingly declared that A, sovereignty belongs to the people of Nigeria, from whom government through this constitution derives all its powers and authority. Then B, the security and welfare of the people. The security and welfare of the people, which people? The people of Nigeria, shall be the primary purpose of government. Now, if you go further to section 16, I want to take them before we get a holistic appreciation of why these things are coming up. Section 6 says that the state shall, within the context of the ideals and objectives of this, for which provisions are made to the Constitution, 60A, which is a new amendment that was introduced, which is one of the crises causing this process. It said the state shall direct its policy towards ensuring that, because this has to do with food security, it was actually amended to other provisions. The state shall direct its policy towards ensuring that A, strategies that guarantee food security of the nation regarding availability, accessibility, and affordability of food to the citizens are initiated, undertaken, and implemented. B, the means of production, conservation, and distribution of food are upgraded and improved upon on the continuous basis. And C, adequate measures are provided to ensure that food security of the nation is not compromised. Is not compromised, emphasis, by any individual, group, or institution. And sub-paragraph, the state shall promote and sustain activities that enhance food security. Let me pause at this section before I proceed to the other section, because the other section has to do with okay, let me just take a 17 because we are talking about NLC. Section 17 is talking about social objective. The one I just read had to do with food security. Social objective. Say the state social order is founded on the ideas of freedom, equality, and justice. Sub 3 now said that the state shall direct its policy towards ensuring that A, all citizens without discrimination or any group whatsoever have the opportunity for securing adequate means of livelihood, as well as adequate opportunity to secure suitable employment. B, conditions of work are just and humane, and that there are adequate facilities for leisure and for social, religious, and cultural life. Then you go to 17, which now says, okay, this is 17. We now go to 22, which is the role of the media. And let me read this to the interest of your consumption. It says 22, the press, the radio, television, and other agencies of the mass media shall at all times, not sometimes, at all times, be free to uphold the fundamental objectives contained in this chapter, like this chapter 2, and uphold the responsibility and accountability of government to the people. Now, if you take a community reading of section 13 through 22 that finally landed at your table, you can see that part of what we are doing here is the enlightenment to see that there is a social contract that exists between the government and the people. And that social contract is being breached. Certain objectives are outlined in chapter 2, which ought to be for the benefit of Nigerians, are not being complied with. And the only way to express such grievance is the protest that is being organized. Like if you look at it very well, aside NLC, a lot of groups came out.
True.
If you look at Kano and other states in the north, for the first time, we saw how people came out en masse to protest, to express their grievance. Then no. So this one is not even an issue of a labor, even though, although labor is also incorporated. But this is a general grievance expressed by Nigerians. Like if you look at section 16A that I just cited with regard to food security, my brother, a man who is hungry, how can he be focused? You see the price of commodities keep increasing day after day. You go to the market, an item you buy today for 100 naira, tomorrow they tell you it's 200 naira. The next day it keeps increasing. And the man who is going to subscribe to this means of livelihood is being paid what they call minimum wage, not a living wage, minimum wage of 30,000 naira, which labor have been clamoring since the inception of democracy, 1999, till date. And the government is telling you, don't worry, we'll come into roundtable talk. They form a roundtable discussion. And labor on its part, that is where I have problem with labor. You go to roundtable meetings, the government now tells you, this government of Nigeria will now tell you, don't worry, we'll work towards it. More than how many years we'll be working towards it. And the situation in Nigeria keeps deteriorating. Now, a government that is sincere on its own, knowing fully well that it has an obligation, as highly stated in chapter 2, need no further consultation or roundtable discussion before it performs its responsibilities. Because in the first place, when you were campaigning to go to those offices, you told the electorates who went out of their way to say, okay, let us try you. Even though your predecessors have failed. You will give light, you will do this, a lot of promises. One we are yet to achieve to the logical conclusion. But like I always align myself with the former governor of Ekiti State, Governor Ayo Fayose, he said stomach infrastructure was his major focal point in Ekiti. Because when the stomach is not well organized,
the body will not function well.
The body cannot function. Even the Bible said in the Ecclesiastes chapter 3 at verse 14, it says, all a man labors for is for the stomach. And yet we are not satisfied. So even the Bible, there's a biblical injunction to the fact that we must eat. It's only a man who has eaten that has strength to walk or improve. So all this points to the fact that there is a constitutional provision that creates a social contract between the governed and the government. And that social contract is being breached. And the likelihood of all the breach, because there's already a breach, because there's no likelihood, there's already a breach. The aftermath effect is what we are seeing currently. So aside the organized labor threat to strike, which also is guaranteed under Section 40 of the 1999 Constitution for them to embark on strike and other statutes, the Nigerian community as it stands now, everyone is angry. Even those who are pretentious that all is well, within them it is not well. Even those in government, that the expectation they have about this current government has fallen short. So the only way is to say that there's a mass protest. As far as the protest is peaceful, it is devoid of any violent attacks and all that. The Constitution said that you are entitled to assemble freely and associate for the protection of your interests. And what is our interest? We need adequate food security. We need stable environments. Our employment should, be made available for people. And those who are gainfully employed, their condition of services should be enhanced. I don't see any reason why they will term it minimum wage. It's a living wage. They're not a minimum. Because the input of the Nigerian worker to the gross domestic product of Nigeria cannot be commensurate with what they're receiving. We put in more, and the man who is toiling is receiving peanuts, or what the Bible calls the crumbs from the table. No. The man has family. He has bills to pay. And yet, the condition of the country is not conducive for him to actualize these things. That's why I see a lot of people having BP, they die because of a lot of factors. Nigerian men and the condition, when the pressure is so much, even when your wife or children know your income, they want to make sure that you go beyond it. And going beyond that, if you go outside your scope of employment, you now start involving in other devices which are detrimental to your scope of work, so that you can meet up the ends of yes. So the government on its own part have not shown that sincerity on their part. Because all these years, even though yes, we have a 4-year term, everyone that has sense office, whether you come back for 2 terms, they are aware of all these issues. Organized labor, they are aware that they are the ones that are the mouthpiece of Nigerians or the Nigerian worker to press home their demands. But you press on your demand, you don't get to a point where you now compromise. Because there have been a lot of compromise. That's why the government on their part are not taking them serious. So it becomes a national anthem. We want to strike, we want to strike. And people are not taking it serious. And when the government now look at the way and manner they are coming with the strike, they'll let them know we have a court order. That's what they are using now, that we have a court order that need to be obeyed. A man who is hungry says you're going to obey a court order. Yes, of course, as a lawyer, you must obey a valid court order. But that does not mean that the man cannot still express his grievance. because there's no court that will give an order that will be detrimental to the welfare of its citizens. No court will do that. And the strike is one of the means, the tools, to down-tool their working activities, telling government that yes, we are not ready to go on until you do the needful.
Exactly. Let me come in at this point. But you said something now that a lot of compromises, and that's why maybe government doesn't take them serious. I was watching, I can't remember his first name, somebody at Dafe on a television a couple of days ago. I think he's based in Warri. It was through via Zoom.
Okay.
And he said something. He said he laughed at the current crop of labor leaders Nigeria has. Nigeria currently we have in labor unions and all of that. And his reason for laughing at them is because he said these guys give in so easily. And he didn't mention names. He cited the example of former labor leaders that have become governors.
Yes, sure.
And now they are now senators. While they are there, they see the opportunity to amass wealth, so much wealth, all in the name of fighting for the people. They are not fighting for the people, he said. Is that what you think?
Well, I think I totally align myself with the position of Idafi. I believe, I don't know his other name, but I believe he's also a unionist.
Yes.
Yes, was one time in Nupeng or Pegasan. You see, like I said earlier on, I said if Nigerian Labour Congress, not the ones we have now, the ones we have now, they are politicians. The Nigerian Labour Congress piloted by people like the Michael Imodu. We don't see them any longer. Those were labor leaders. Those were people that will come out to the streets, damning any consequence, provided the right thing is done. Therefore, they are telling you, just give us a good condition of living. Is that too much to ask? Knowing fully well the inputs that the Nigerian worker has put in place. You can imagine a man who works in the civil service for 35 years. You will retire, to pay your gratuity is a problem. Don't even go to pension, because that one is another different ballgame entirely. In fact, there's even a serious fraud going on with all this pension scheme. So we don't even want to go to that aspect. But let us first and foremost, a man who has devoted 35 good years of sincere service to a nation, the time that you're supposed to be enjoying with the little you are going to give to you, you are still withholding him, subjecting him to rigorous processes to pay him a peanut. Then you are the hands of affairs. Nobody, you don't even consult before you take some allowances, bogus ones for that matter. At the end of the day, you find out that we are still where we are. So labor leaders who actually have the interests of the Nigerian worker at heart, who want to interface with government, to say no, let us, even though they want to be back on 1 month strike, be serious with it. Okay, we'll have to stop you there because we'll go on a quick break. When we come back, we'll take it up from there. Sincere labor leaders, we don't have them any longer like we have them during time of Michael Imodu. We will come back after this break. Do stay tuned.